Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam
Sharadava Nalalida Loka Pranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam
Prapta Sakalyana Gunanavasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Tasya Kayana Gunaravasa Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena
Prabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasura Sena
Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Romanchakam Sutaranga Bhajo Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Shri Vigrahara Dhananityanana Shringara Tannama Niramajanado
Shri Vigrahara Dana Nichanana Shingaratan Mandira Majnado
Joktasya Bhaktamsa Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Yuktasya Bhaktam Saninjatovi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Chaturvidha Shri Bhagavat Prasado Satana Truptan Hari Bhakta Sangha
Chaturvyashi Bhagavat Shara Sadhana Chitam Haribhakta Sangha
Kridvaiva Trupte Bhajata Shadeva Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Shiradikama Vavayarapara Madhura Lila Gunarupanamna
Shiradikama Davayurapara Adhila Gunarupanana
Pratikchanasa Dhanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Pratikchanasa Dhanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Pratikchanasa Dhanalalupasya Vande Guru Shri Charanaravinam
Pratikchanasa Dhanalalupasya Charanaravinda
Nikunja yuno Rati kelisi dhyai Jajali virjukti apekshaniya
Nikunjayuno Radhidevisita Jayadiviyuktirabhijaniya
Tatrati daksha Ativalabhasya Bande Gurashi Charanaravinda
Tatrati daksha Ativalabhasya Bande Gurashi Charanaravinda
Satya dharitena Samasta shashre Ruktastatava Vyataiva sadhavi
Yuktastatama Vyataiva sadhi
Kintu pravarja Priya eva tasya Bande Gurashi Charanaravinda Bande Gurashi Charanaravinda Bande Gurashi Charanaravinda Sa Prasada Bhagavat Prasada Yasya prasadam nagati kutapi
Yasya prasadam bhagavat prasadam Yasya prasadam nagati kutapi
Dayam stuvam tasya yasatrin sandhyam Bande Gurashi Charanaravinda Dayam stuvam tasya yasatrin sandhyam Bande Gurashi Charanaravinda Bande Gurashi Charanaravinda Bande Gurashi Charanaravinda Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Saminiti Namine Namah
Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine
Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunavari Pachatari Shatarine
Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine
Nivishesha Shunavari Pachatari Shatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Haraya Namah Krishna Jadavaya Namah
Hare Raya Namah Krishna Naraya Namah
Jadavaya Madhavaya Kesavaya Namah
Yadavaya Radhavaya Kesavaya Namah
Hare Gopal Govinda Ram Sri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopina Madana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita Shri Rupa Sanatan Vatara Guna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasara Guna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo
Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Color
नमामीश्वरं सच्चि आनन्दरूपं लसद्कुण्डालं गोकुले व्रजमानम्
Saram Satchidanandarupam Satkandalam Gokule Bhajamana
यशोदाभियोलुकलाधवमानं परामृष्टामात्यन्तातो द्रुतगोप्या
Odabhiyolukaladdhavamanam Padam Vishtam Atyantato Jujagogya
रोदान्तमोहूर्णेत्रयुग्मं मृजन्तं कराम्भोजायुग्मेन शातङ्कनेत्रम् रोदान्तमोहूर्णेत्रयुग्मं मृजन्तं कराम्भोजायुग्मेन शातङ्कनेत्रम् मोहुस्वासकं पात्रे रेखाङ्ककान्ता स्थिताग्रैवं दामोदरं भक्तिभद्रम् मोहुस्वासकं पात्रे रेखाङ्ककान्ता
Shitagraivam Damodaram Bhaktipadam
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Iti Driksvalilabhiranandakunde Swaghosam nimajantamakhyapayantam Iti Driksvalilabhiranandakunde Swaghosam nimajantamakhyapayantam Tadiye sitagneshu bhaktajitvatvam Punah prematastam shatavritti vande Tadiye sitagneshu bhaktajitvatvam Punah prematastam shatavritti vande Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Varam Deva Moksham Na Moksham Vadim Va Nachanyam Rineham Vare Sadapiha Varam Deva Moksham Na Moksham Vadim Va Nachanyam Rineham Vare Sadapiha Idam Deva Purnata Gopala Balam Sada Me Manasya Virashtam Kimanye Idam Deva Purnata Gopala Balam Sada Me Manasya Virashtam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Idam te mukham bojam atyantanilay Vritam kuntalay snigdharaktaischa gopya Idam te mukham bojam atyantanilay Vritam kuntalay snigdharaktaischa gopya Mohostumitam bimbharaktadharam me Manasya virashtam malam lakshalabhay Mohostumitam bimbharaktadharam me Manasya virashtam malam lakshalabhay Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare देव दामोदरानन्त विष्णो प्रसीद प्रभो दुःखजालाब्धिमग्नम् नमो देव दामोदरानन्त विष्णो प्रसीद प्रभो दुःखं जालाब्धिमग्नम् कृपा दृष्टिवृष्ट्यातिदिनं बतानु गृहानिशमामग्नम् एद्यक्षिदृश्ये कृपा दृष्टिवृष्ट्यातिदिनं बतानु गृहानिशमामग्नम् एद्यक्षिदृश्ये हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कुबेरात्मजौ बद्धमूर्तयत्वा त्वया मोचितौ भक्तिभाजौ कृतौ च कुबेरात्मजौ बद्धमूर्तयत्वा त्वया मोचितौ भक्तिभाजौ कृतौ च तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वकामे प्रयच्छ न मोक्षे ग्रहो मेष्टि दामोदरे हा तथा प्रेम भक्तिं स्वकामे प्रयच्छ न मोक्षे ग्रहो दामोदरे हा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नमस्तेस्तु दाम्ने स्फूर्तिदा त्वदीयोद्धरायत विश्वस्य धाम्ने नमस्तेस्तु धाम्ने स्फुरदीप्तिदाम्ने त्वदीयोद्धरायत विश्वस्य धाम्ने नमो राधिकायै त्वदीया प्रियायै नमो नन्तलीलाय देवाय तुभ्यं 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 हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Ram Ram Jaya Radha Damodara Radhe Radha Damodara Radhe Jaya Radha Nila Madhava Radhe Radha Nila Madhava Radhe Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev Jaya Jaya Gurudev दामोदर भगवान की जय
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramansa Pararajika Shasta Tarasatarashi Shri Mali's Divine Grace Shri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta Vinda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapura Dham Ki Jai Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Jamuna Maya Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vinda Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanand Damodar Astakam Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to Simple Devotees, all glories to Simple Devotees, all glories to Simple, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Ki Jai Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutali Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tanaya Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Charani Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Risatari.
Namaste Narasimhaya Praladadayine Namaste Narasimhaya Praladadayine
Hiranyakashi Gurvaksha
Shilatankanakalaye Ito Narsimha Parato Narsimha
Ito Nrsimha Parato Nrsimha
Yato Yato Yami Tato Narsimha
Yato Yato Yami Tato Nrsimha
Bahir Narsimha Hridaye Narsimha
Aye Nrsimha Hidaye Nrsimha
Narsimha Madim Sharanam Tapade
Namadim Saranam Bhavade
Tava Kara Kamala Vare Nakam Adbhuta Shingha Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Brihma Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Tavakara Kamala Vare Naka
Adhuta Shingam Hiranyakashipu Tanu Brihma Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare
Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare Jai Jagadish Hare
Shavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadish Hare Jaya Jagadish Hare
Jayo Narasimha Dev Jayo Narasimha Dev Jayo Narasimha Dev Jayo Narasimha Dev
Jaya Nrsimha Dev Jaya Nrsimha Dev Jaya Nrsimha Dev
Jayo Prahlad Maharaj Jayo Prahlad Maharaj Jayo Prahlad Maharaj Jayo Prahlad Maharaj Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Jai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Shingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai Pindaye Tulsidevaya Priyaye Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Bali Devi Satyavrataya Namo Namaha Pindaye Tulsidevaya Priyaye Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Padi Devi Satyavrataya Namo Namaha Vindaye Tusidevaya Piyaye Keshavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Paridevi Satyavrataya Namo Namaha. Vindaye Tusidevi Maharani Ki Jai.
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna
Preyasi Namo Namaha.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo
Krishna Seva Pava Hey Abhilasi.
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha.
Ye tomara sharan loy tara vancha purna hoy. Ye tomara sharan
loy
tara vancha
purna hoy.
Kripa kori koro tare Vrindavan vasi.
Kripa kori koro tare Vrindavan vasi.
Moraye abhilash vilas kunje diyo vas.
Moraye abhilash vilas kunje diyo vas.
Nayane haribo sada yugal ruparashi.
Nayane haribo sada yugal ruparashi.
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna
Preyasi Namo Namaha.
Ei nivedana dharo sakhiranu-gata koro. सेवाधिकारा दिए करो निज दासी.
सेवाधिकारा दिए करो निज दासी.
दीना कृष्ण दासे को ये न मोरा होय.
दीना कृष्ण दासी को ये न मोरा होय.
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी.
गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी.
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी.
राधा गोविंद प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी.
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha
Krishna Preyasi Namo
यानी कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मा हत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि प्रमाहात्यधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मा हत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्याधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya
Vrinda Devi,
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi,
Jaya Vrinda Devi.
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani,
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada,
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev,
Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
वृंदा देवी तुलसी महारानी की जय.
Bindai, Bindaye Tulsi Devaya Priyaye Kesavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Paridevi Satyavrataya Namo Namaha. Bindaye Tulsi Devaya Priyaye Kesavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Paridevi Satyavrataya Namo Namaha. Vindaye Tulsi Devaya Priyaye Kesavasya Cha Vishnu Bhakti Paridevi Satyavrataya Namo Namaha. Vindaye Tulsi Devi Maharani Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhuti Smriti Bhuti Smriti.
Oh, Tulsi, beloved Krishna.
Before you can, I desire to obtain this service to Shri Shri Radha and Krishna, Whoever takes shelter of you has his wishes fulfilled. Bestowing your mercy upon him, you make him a resident of Vrindavan.
I beg you to make me and follow guidance of your God. Please give me the privilege of your service and make me on my service. This very fallen, Lord is such a Krishna praise. May I always think of Shishira Yogi. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Kam Ki Jai. Chandika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivartanam Patipadam Bhutana Sarvatmasnam Parampara Vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Vaudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrat Pita Niyamita Shmaranena Kala Ita Drishitava Kripaya Bhagavan Mamapi Durdhaiva Midrishamya Janina Nuraga Trinarapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Radhanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitamba Jagarisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmanishwari Bhavatar Bhakti Rahaitu Kitvai Avinandatanu Jakinkaram Paritamam Vishame Bhavambudo Kripaya Tava Par Pankajastita Duli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galora Shrudharaya Padanam Gadagadharudaya Gira Pulakairi Chitam Papukara Tavanama Grane Bhavisati Jugaitam Nimishena Chakusha Prarusaitam Shunyaitam Jagata Sarvam Govinda Virahiname Asli Shabhapadaratam Pinastamam Adarshanan Marmatam Karotuva Jata Tataba Vidadatulam Pato Matprananatastu Saivana Para Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Kam Ki Jai. Glory to Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditioned life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays that the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully test the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus we have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There is not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself Lord and strong on a street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your cause of devotion service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yes, somehow or other I am falling in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at the Lord's feet. O my Lord, only my eyes should be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name. When my voice choke up, and when the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering one moment to be like 12 years old. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and it should remain so, even if sunders me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for He is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri 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 Kristakam ki jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1.
To blaspheme, do
God
it.
is dedicated your life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. Consider the names of demigods, the Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature, O Lord Joseph, the sons of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on strength of chanting holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which often favors as fruit of activity karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments, even if understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve his desires of success. Krishna Prem. Now let us offer our most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas, devotees of the Lord. They are just desire trees that can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls.
Shrimad Bhagavatam Grantharaj ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're reading from Canto 2, Chapter 7, verse number 38. Canto 2, Chapter 7, verse number 38. Yarhi alasvapi satam nahare katasyu.
Yadi aleswapi satam nahare katashu.
Pasandino dvijajana Vrishala Nideva.
Pasandino dvijajana Vrishala Nideva.
Swaha Swada Vasaditi Smagiro Nayatra.
Swada Swada Vasaditi Smagiro Nayatra.
Shasta Bhavishyati Kalir Bhagavan Yugante.
Sattva Vasiswati Kale Bhagavan Yugante.
Yarhi,
Yahi.
when it happens, Ala Yesu, in the residence of Api, even Satam, civilized gentlemen, Na, no, Hare, of the personality of Godhead, Kataha, topics, Shu, will take place. Pasandina, atheists, Dvijajana, persons declaring themselves to be higher 3 classes. Higher, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas. Rishala, the lower class Sudras. Nirdeva, ministers of the government. Swaha, hymns to perform sacrifices. Swada, the ingredients to perform sacrifices. Vasat, the altar of sacrifice. Iti, all these. Sma, shall. Jira, words. Na, never. Yatra, anywhere. Shasta, the chastiser. Bhavishyati, will appear. Kale, of the Kali, age. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Yuga ante, at the end of. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Thereafter, at the end of Kali Yuga, when there exist no topics on the subject of God, even at the residence residences of so-called saints and respectable gentlemen of the three higher castes, and when the power of government is transferred to the hands of ministers elected from the low-born Sudra class, or those less than them, and when nothing is known of the techniques of sacrifice, even by word, at that time the Lord will appear as the supreme chastiser. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. The symptoms of the worst conditions of the material world at the last stage of this age, called Kali Yuga, are stated herein. The sum and substance of such conditions is godlessness. Even the so-called saints and higher castes of the social orders, generally known as the Dvija Janas, or the twice-born, will become atheists. As such, all of them will practically forget even the holy name of the Lord, and what to speak of his activities. The higher castes of society, namely the intelligent class of men, guiding the destinies of the social orders, the administrative class of men guiding the law and order of the society, and the productive class of men guiding the economic development of the society, must all be properly well-versed in knowledge of the Supreme Lord, knowing factually his name, quality, pastimes, entourage, paraphernalia, and personalities. The saints and the higher castes or orders of the society are judged by their proportion of knowledge in the science of God, or tattva jnana, and not by any kind of birthright or bodily designations. Such designations without any knowledge of the science of God and practical knowledge of devotional service are considered to be all decorations of dead bodies. And when there is too much inflation of these decorated dead bodies in society, there develop so many anomalies in the progressive, peaceful life of the human being. Because of the lack of training or culture in the upper section of the social orders, they are no more to be designated as the Dvija Janas, or the twice-born. The significance of being twice-born has been explained in many places in these great literatures. And again, one is reminded herewith that birth, executed by the sex life of the father and mother, is called animal birth. But such animal birth and progress of life on the animal principles of eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating, without any scientific culture or spiritual knowledge, is called the Sudra life, or to be more explicit, the uncultured life of the lower class of men. It is stated herein that the governmental power of society in the Kali Yuga will be passed over to the uncultured, godless laborer classes of men, and thus the Nri Devas, or the ministers of the government, will be the Rishalas, or the uncultured lower class of men of society. No one can expect any peace and prosperity in a human society full of uncultured lower classes of men. The symptoms of such uncultured social animals are already in vogue, and it is the duty of the leaders of men to take note of it and try to reform the social order by introducing the principles of twice-born men trained in the science of God consciousness. This can be done by expanding the culture of Srimad Bhagavatam all over the world. In the degraded condition of human society, the Lord incarnates as the Kalki Avatara and kills the demoniac without mercy. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thereafter, at the end of the Kali Yuga, when there exist no topics on the subject of God, even at the residences of so-called saints and respectable gentlemen of the three higher castes, and when the power of government is transferred to the hands of ministers elected from the low-born Sudra class or those less than them, and when nothing is known of the techniques of sacrifice, even by word, at that time the Lord will appear as the supreme chastiser. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Well, this is a frightening prediction that's going to happen. The sages in Naimisharanya and the speakers of the Srimad Bhagavatam, like Sukadeva Goswami and Sutta Goswami, they are Trikalagya. They can see past, present, and future. Therefore, things are predicted here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and these predictions will definitely happen. We're already seeing it. This tendency of electing low-class people to be leaders of society, it's already there. And Prabhupada himself has said that the system of monarchy is desirable. I mean, the problem is that the monarchs, or the kings and queens, degraded. And because of that, people got rid of them. In fact, even now they're saying that Queen Elizabeth, when she dies, she'll probably be the last monarch, international monarch. After her, no one else will have such a status, because the monarchy has failed totally. Why? Because the kings were no longer trained to be Krishna conscious. Therefore, they simply accepted such powerful positions for their own name and fame and their own sense gratification. Like, for example, I think it was King Henry VIII. He, during his reign, England was Catholic nation, but he wanted to dump his wife and get a new wife. And the Pope at that time said, "You can't do this. This is against our principles." I said, "Oh, yes? Well, I'm the king here, and I'm going to reject the Catholic Church and start my own church where I can get married to somebody else." And he did it. And that was the beginning of the Anglican Church, where the rituals are almost exactly the same as the Catholic rituals, but it's an independent church. And why did he start it? Because he wanted to have more sense gratification. You see how things degrade in Kali Yuga. Did you know that? Did you know that? No. Yeah, it's very interesting when you. Well, it's not necessary to read mundane history, because it's all about things like what I just said. You know, all about sense gratification and wars and breaking apart and becoming independent and so forth. So it's not very interesting, not very uplifting to read that, but it is sometimes helpful to know what mistakes were made in the past, because history repeats itself. And whatever has happened in the past will happen in the future also, unless people become Krishna conscious. So this happens all the time, just like when he broke off, and then later on there was the Protestant Reformation, where Luther and other peoples broke away from the Catholic Church because they saw that the popes had become corrupted. So now there's like hundreds of denominations in Christianity. And the same thing happened in Islam, where right after the death of Muhammad, there was a split between the Shias and the Sunnis. And it was a violent split, where they were slaughtering each other. They still slaughter each other today. And then besides that, there are many other sects of Islam that you don't hear about them that much, but there's plenty of them, just like in Christianity. Christianity, of course, takes the cake, because they have a lot more different, let's say, denominations within them. Just like, you know, if you walk by a church and you see their sign, so one will say the Lutheran Christian Church. Another one will say the Full Bible Christian Church. Another one will say the Half Bible Christian Church. And another one will say that no Bible Christian church. That's the universal. There's a whole church like that. They don't really refer to the Bible. They can bring any book and read it in their church. So this, with all those names are different types of interpretation of the Bible. See? Because there's such a thing called hermeneutics. Hermeneutics means how you can speculate. Basically, that's what it means. Of course, they try and say that it's the correct way to interpret things, but actually, it is a license to speculate. So now hermeneutics, they even have a ISKCON section for it too, right? So what do? They basically try and figure out what things mean in the scriptures. Now, do we need to do that? That's the question. No, because the Krishna was very explicit when he spoke the Bhagavad Gita, and the Srimad Bhagavatam also is very explicit. There's nothing ambiguous in both of these books about what is the purpose of life and how to achieve that purpose. But yet, people think, oh, well, this is not clear. Maybe we have to get this interpretations so that we can understand more clearly what they're trying to say. So that's basically a license to speculate. So this is a symptom of Kali Yuga, that people are speculating, but through speculation they're losing faith in the scriptures, and they're just like even in ISKCON, there's a whole movement to rewrite Prabhupada's books, right? It's like crazy. They want to change so many things. They want to take out any references that are negative to women. Well, there's nothing negative to women in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam purports. It's just like, for example, would you accept Marilyn Monroe as an ideal woman? No, she's a fallen woman, right? Would you accept Bill Clinton as an ideal man? No, he's a fallen man. So there are fallen men, there are fallen women. So are you not allowed to say that? You see? So whenever there's references to women being fallen or men being fallen, and the references are there, like, for example, Mamhi Parthavya Pasritya Yepisu Papa Yonaha Striya Vaisas Tata Sujas Tepi Yanti Param Gatim. So this is a verse that is misinterpreted all the time. It says that there are the women, Sudras, and Vaishyas are fallen. Okay, so does that mean all women, all Vaishyas, all Sudras? No. That means that those who are fallen. Now, is this a fact? I'm going to demonstrate it now. This is the 9th chapter, 32nd verse. Mamhi Parthavya Pasritya. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, and Sudras, can attain the supreme destination. So is this a indictment of these people? No, it's saying even these people who are fallen, they can also attain the supreme destination. They can also go back to Godhead in this lifetime. See? So this is not a verse that's negative. It's actually a positive verse, right? Now, when it refers to women, does it mean all women? Does it mean all Vaishyas? Vaishyas are men, right? Does it mean all Sudras? All Sudras are men. No. What does it mean exactly? Well, you have to read the purport, but there are also alternate translations of this verse. Now, if we look in the introduction to the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, written by Prabhupada himself, he quotes this verse on page 31 in my Srimad Bhagavatam in the introduction, where he quotes, Mamhi Parthavya Pasritya Tepisyu Papa Yonaha. He says, thus the Lord says that even a merchant, a fallen woman, or a laborer, or even human beings in the lowest status of life can attain the supreme. So what he's referring to when it says in 932, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, Sudras, when he says women, he means lower, fallen women. It doesn't mean all women. So, but you would have to read the introduction. Obviously, nobody reads the introduction. So therefore, they say, so some women read this and they say, "Oh my God, your movement is anti-women." No, it's not anti-women. By the way, all the gopis are women, and Srimati Radharani is a woman, right? So how can you say they're all fallen? These are, and there's so many women like Kunti Devi who we're worshiping here, right? She's a woman, right? Is she a fallen woman? No. But there are fallen women. Surpanaka would be considered a fallen woman, right? We don't have her picture here, right? So you see how, because people don't read, and it's not a question of reading, they read, they don't hear the Bhagavad Gita spoken by genuine devotees. Therefore, they just read something like this. Oh, I'm not going to be Krishna conscious because, they hate women. No, we don't hate women. We don't hate Sudras. We don't hate Vaishyas. We don't hate demons, right? But as long as you don't hear from bona fide devotees, reading is not enough. I'm telling you right now. Because people read, especially speed readers. You go, oh yeah, I got it now. Yeah. The speed reading is nonsense. You can't read Shastra by speed reading. You have to hear it and repeat until it enters through all the thick skull. The skull is pretty hard, right? To penetrate that thick skull is not easy. And you have to keep hearing Shruti, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and not all these other books. There's millions of books. You go to the library here in Samamis, you'll see thousands and thousands of books, right? And most of them are, not most of them, all of them are about mundane knowledge. There's no real knowledge being given. It's all mundane stuff. So that's basically a waste of paper. See? All you need is Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this verse today, it says the symptoms of the worst conditions in the material world at the last stage of this age, called Kali Yuga, are stated herein. Now, already we see those symptoms today. We don't have to wait till the end of Kali Yuga. We see them today. Like just yesterday, I was with a very nice person, a mother, and she was telling me how her son is like an atheist. Although he was born in a very good family, and when he was younger, he was chanting mantras, and he was coming to temples and things like that. And now, one day, when he was 16, he told his mother, "I'm an atheist. Don't talk to me about God. If you want me to be your son, I'll be your son. But if you talk about God, I'm walking away." And he was categorical. And now he's like 24 years old, and it's the same thing. She can't say anything about God. Immediately, he gets upset. Now, how did that happen? When he was 6 years old, 8 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, he was chanting mantras, and he was, listening to, or at least coming to the temple and having darshan and bowing down, And all of a sudden, when he's 16 years old, he said, "Don't talk to me about God. I don't want to hear anything. I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God." Right? Now, how did that happen? It's very interesting to note this. And that might go on for the rest of his life. And, by the way, he's a very unhappy person. I can tell you right now. He's got a lot of problems. Well, it happens because of modern education. And all these symptoms that we're going to read about now, they're here now. You don't have to wait till the end of Kali Yuga. It's already happening now. Low-class people are being elected as president of the whole United States, and they don't know, they can't figure out what is the real purpose of life. And therefore, they're passing laws, and they're making statements, and they're trying to guide society, and it's all wrong. and it's misleading, and it's not making the people happy. They're getting more and more anxious, more and more fearful, and more negative, and more atheistic, right? So this is a dilemma. Now, this was predicted, and we can see, even though this Kali Yuga is going to last another 427,000 years, all these symptoms are present today already, and not, in a microscopic way. They're very significant. So what are these symptoms? It says that even the so-called saints and higher castes of the social orders, generally known as the Dvija Janas, or the twice-born, will become atheists. As such, all of them will practically forget even the holy name of the Lord, and what to speak of his activities. The higher castes of society, namely the intelligent class of men, guiding the destinies of the social orders, the administrative class of men, guiding the law and order of the society, and the productive class of men, guiding the economic development of the society, must all be properly well-versed in knowledge of the Supreme Lord, knowing factually his name, quality, pastimes, entourage, paraphernalia, and personalities. The saints in the higher castes or orders of the society are judged by their proportion of knowledge in the science of God. Well, where is it instructed, the science of God? Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. This is what someone said, I want to have a career in science. Well, that means you have to read Srimad Bhagavatam, because this is the real scientific book. It explains creation, it explains the purpose of creation, it explains how everything was created. That's all scientific knowledge. See? And it explains what is the purpose of life and how a person can attain that purpose of liberation from the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease, and go back to Godhead. This is all science. If you read Nectar of Devotion, it's a scientific book explaining every little step in Krishna consciousness. And in other words, if you read a book about chemistry, and it tells you every step how to make this chemical, right? But that's exactly what Nectar of Devotion is. It's telling every little detail, and so that you can recognize whether you're making spiritual progress or you're not making spiritual progress. It's a scientific book. There is a science of Krishna. Of course, all the phonies out there, they'll say, oh, no, that's not science, that's religion, that's not science. What we're teaching you, everything comes from the Big Bang. By the way, I may have told you already, but I'm going to say it again. The Big Bang has been renounced as the origin of creation already some years ago. Of course, they haven't caught up on the textbooks. They still teach it to your kids, right? See, this is all junk. And unless we realize that, by the way, Prabhupada says, in order to be liberated, you have to lose your faith in material life. Now, everybody today build up their faith in material life. They think, I'm going to be happy by making money and engaging in sense gratification. And I'm not going to live in Seattle, because Seattle is a boring place. I want to live in New York, where there's tremendous, intense sense gratification. Or L.A., where there's intense sense gratification. It's 24 hours a day. You can go out, the nightclubs are open, the bars are open, the brothels are open. Everything's open 24 hours a day, but mainly at night, right? So in New York, there are two types of people. I know, because I used to live in New York. There are the people that live during the day, and there's the people that live during the night and sleep during the day. And there's the people that work during the day and sleep at night. But there are many more people who don't work during the day and are up all night long doing nonsense. See? So the Kali Yuga is already here, and the symptoms of the end of Kali Yuga are already present. You don't have to wait 427,000 years. And we're seeing that there's less and less interest in hearing Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. People might read it a little bit, but they're not really into hearing it. This hearing is more important than reading. Okay, so this is also explained in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And yesterday we did read something interesting in Bhagavad Gita, the 3rd chapter, 31st verse, where it says, therefore, without being fully in Krishna consciousness, one should not give up his occupational duties. No one should suddenly give up his prescribed duties. And I'm sorry, not that verse. Verse 31, it says, but an ordinary man with firm faith in the eternal injunctions of the Lord, even though unable to execute such orders, becomes liberated from the bondage of the law of karma. So, in the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions, meaning the rules and regulations of the Lord. But because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. This is an amazing statement by Prabhupada in the 3rd chapter, 31st verse. And this verse is very important. It says, Ye me matam idam nityam anutistanti manava shadavanto nasuyanto muchyate tepi karma bihi. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions. Now, what does that mean, an injunction? It means that it's an authoritative warning or order. An injunction is an authoritative warning or an order that you must do something, or you must be extremely careful because something horrible is going to happen, right, if you don't. So it says here that those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions, my meaning Krishna's injunctions, and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy, become free from the bondage of fruitive actions. You become free from karma. So why does it say without envy? Because people sometimes turn against Krishna consciousness. They say, oh, my life is miserable because of Krishna consciousness. Just like one time, this is a long, long time ago in France, the mother of a young devotee, her daughter was only maybe 16 at the time, she came and started screaming at me in the temple. And she said, my daughter has to have sex, and you people are against sex, and that's not right. It shows you how crazy people are, right? And she was screaming at me. I didn't say much, I wanted her to stop screaming, right? I didn't want to get upset myself and throw her out. But I said, well, look, no, your daughter's going to get married. And, no, you don't allow sex in marriage. And she went crazy again. So this is what's going on in this world. The parents of the kids are pushing them to do nonsense. This is what, this is the dilemma that we're in today, Anyway, the daughter did get married to a devotee, and I think, I at one point I left France, but I think that her and her husband continued in Krishna consciousness. I'm not absolutely sure because I didn't stay there to see. But this was like horrible for the daughter also. She's just a young girl and a very nice girl, and she was very much into Krishna consciousness. But her mother wanted to take her away. So here that's what envy is. When a person begins to talk crazy like that against the instructions of Krishna consciousness, that's because of their enviousness. And they want to push their own children to be engaged in sense gratification. So the verse before that also is very interesting. It says, Mai sarvani karmani sanyas yad yatma chetasa nirasir nirmamo budva yudyasva vigata jwara. This is a very important verse, Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, 30th verse, and it says, therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. So Krishna is saying, fight. Well, that's what we have to do. We have to learn not to be discouraged. We have to believe in the words of the scriptures and the words of the acharyas, and we have to be courageous. We have to fight, but not fight people, but fight the demon within ourselves. That voice that speaks to us says, "Don't do this, don't do it. No. You just keep sleeping. And you don't have to get up so early, you know. And yeah, it's all right. You can eat this. It's all right. Don't worry about it. You know, you don't have to follow all the rules and regulations. You know, and you don't have to follow 4 rights. Just follow 3. You know, and so all those temptations by associating with loose people. Sometimes I refer to Los Angeles as Loose Angeles. There's a lot of loose people there. Well, there are loose people everywhere. But anyway, yeah, when you meet devotees that are loose, that are not really strictly following all the regulations, you know, you begin to think, well, maybe I can do like that also, you know. It would be more fun than following all the rules. No. So let's hear what Prabhupada says here. This verse... the verse says, "Therefore, Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me, with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from laziness, fight." And Prabhupada says, this verse clearly indicates the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord instructs that one has to become fully Krishna conscious to discharge duties, as if in military discipline. Wow, that's a heavy word. Military discipline. That means when you enter the United States military, I'm going to tell you right now, you lose your independence completely. You have to do what they tell you to do. And if you don't, you can end up in jail. Or you can end up thrown out with no benefits. So it is absolute authority. When you're outside of the army, you're free. You know, you want to take the vaccine, you can take it. You don't want to take it, you don't have to take it. You're in the army, you have to take the vaccine, right? And if you don't, they throw you out or they put you in jail, right? So here it says, this verse clearly indicates the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord instructs that one has to become fully Krishna conscious to discharge duties as if in military discipline. Such an injunction is a severe warning or an order. So such an injunction may make things a little difficult. Nevertheless, duties must be carried out with dependence on Krishna, because that is the constitutional position of the living entity. The living entity cannot be happy independent of the cooperation of the Supreme Lord, because the eternal constitutional position of living entity is to become subordinate to the desires of the Lord. Now, we have a practical example of it. I saw it yesterday. This mother is telling me, my son is an atheist. He was a nice boy when he was younger, but he became an atheist. And now, if I even mention God, he turns off and he walks away from me. I can't talk about God in my own house. See, otherwise, I'll lose my son. He'll move away. See, so, and what's the symptom of the boy? He has mental problems now. He has he can't socialize with people. He doesn't have any friends. And he's in trouble mentally. And his life is sad. He's very unhappy. And he just sits in front of a computer all day. You see? So, you can see what Prabhupada is saying here. He says, the living entity cannot be happy independent of the cooperation of the Supreme Lord, because the eternal constitutional position of the living entity is to become subordinate to the desires of the Lord. Arjuna was therefore ordered by Sri Krishna to fight as if the Lord were his military commander. A military commander, if you don't follow his orders, you are finished, right? You go to jail, especially in wartime. If someone refuses to follow orders, they put him in jail. One has to sacrifice everything for the goodwill of the Supreme Lord and at the same time discharge prescribed duties without claiming proprietorship. Arjuna did not have to consider the order of the Lord. He had only to execute his order. The Supreme Lord is the soul of all souls. Therefore, one who depends solely and wholly on the Supreme Soul without personal consideration, or in other words, one who is fully Krishna conscious, is called Adhyatma Chetas. Nirasi means that one has to act on the order of the master but should not expect fruitive results. The cashier in a bank may count millions of dollars for his employer, but he does not claim a cent for himself. Similarly, one has to realize that nothing in the world belongs to any individual person, but that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord. That is the real purport of Mai, or unto me. And when one acts in such Krishna consciousness, certainly he does not claim proprietorship over anything. This consciousness is called nirmama, or nothing is mine. And if there is any reluctance to execute such a stern order, which is without consideration of so-called kinsmen, or meaning family, in the bodily relationship, that reluctance should be thrown off. In this way, one may become vigata jwara, or without feverish mentality or lethargy. Everyone, according to his quality and position, has a particular type of work to discharge, and all such duties may be discharged in Krishna consciousness as described above. That will lead one to the path of liberation. Well, if this movement succeeds in ISKCON of changing Prabhupada's books, they probably would eliminate this whole purport. Because this is against everything people believe in today. They believe they're independent, that they're not subordinate. And it starts in kindergarten with the high five. What does the high five mean exactly? What do you think it actually means? Some of the kids, what do you understand when someone says high five? Anybody? What's that? Good job. Does it make you feel good? All right. So today there's a movement to equalize everyone in the school. So therefore, what do? They lower the academic standards so that nobody fails, everyone passes. Right? So what you normally, previously, when you flunked a test, you would fail, right? Now you cannot flunk a test. They make the test so easy that it's almost impossible to flunk it. Why? To build up the self-esteem of the kid, that they think that whatever they do, that is the perfection of life. And the high five, although what you said is correct, the job well done, right? But actually it goes farther than that. People do nonsense and they give the high five also. You see? So it's become a symbol of inflating the self-esteem of someone, especially kids. So that they cannot fail. But what happens? They all fail because the standards are so low, they don't learn anything. And what did Prabhupada say here in this purport? He says, because of the lack of training or culture in the upper section of the social orders, they are no more to be designated as Dvija Janas, or twice born. So there's no real instruction being given nowadays. It's all this, high-fiving all the time. Great achievement. You made a big bubble with your bubble gum. Well, is that a great achievement? You can blow a big bubble with your bubble gum. It's come down to that mundane level now. Very mundane, where they're high-fiving for not doing nonsense things, right? And here it says, the saints and the higher castes or orders of society are judged by their proportion of knowledge in the science of God, or tattva jnana, and not by any kind of birthright or bodily designations. Such designations, without any knowledge of the science of God and practical knowledge of devotional service, are considered to be all decorations of dead bodies. And when there is too much inflation of these decorated dead bodies in society, there develop so many anomalies in the progressive, peaceful life of the human being. Well, that's what's going on today. There's a lot of distress and fear, and there's not peace. Everyone wants shanti, 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 but now there's ashanti, 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 right? Because of the lack of training or culture in the upper section of the social orders, there are no more to be designated as the Dvija Janas, or twice born. So it's talking about the Brahmanas and the intellectuals in society. There's no more, proper education. Therefore, people don't have peaceful lives anymore. They're always disturbed. They're always upset. Okay, so therefore, this verse, 3rd chapter, 30th verse, and 3rd chapter, 31st verse, are very significant because Krishna consciousness is all about being trained to be a cultural person. But the culture is how to be Krishna conscious. It's not how to be a demon. Right? Okay, so we'll stop right there. Are there any questions?
Maharaj, in the purport, there is a word, entourage.
What word?
In the purport,
Yeah.
there is a word, paraphernalia, entourage.
Oh, which, in 330 or 331?
In Srimad Bhagavatam.
Oh, in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Are you talking in the verse or in the purport? What is that verse again?
The word entourage.
Entourage.
Yeah.
R-A-J?
No. E-N-T-O-R-A-G-E. Entourage.
No, you're mispronouncing the word. That's why I didn't understand. It's entourage. Entourage means who is following Krishna. Okay. Like when he travels, everyone comes with him, right? The associates, yeah. Him and his entourage, yeah. Yeah. Yes. So you want to read the sentence where you're seeing that?
I wanted to know the meaning of it.
It means his associates. Yeah. Whenever Krishna goes somewhere, he doesn't go alone. There's people going with him. Whenever he appears in the material world, all the incarnations are present in his body. Right. Okay, so also the verse, 3rd chapter, verse 32 is very important also because it says, "But those who, out of envy, disregard these teachings and do not follow them are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled, and ruined in their endeavors for perfection." So this is why this boy, whose mother was speaking about, is in this position. He's not following anything out of envy. He doesn't believe in God. He's bereft of knowledge. He's befooled and ruined in his endeavors for perfection. See? This is the process for failure in life. And in the purport says the flaw or the fault of not being Krishna conscious is clearly stated here. As there is punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Executive Head, so there is certainly punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A disobedient person, however, great he may be, is ignorant of his own self and of the Supreme Brahman, Paramatma, or Personality of Godhead. Due to a vacant heart, therefore, there is no hope of perfection of life for him. So this is a serious issue. We should think about it. We don't want to become a despondent, negative, atheistic person because it only will be miserable. There is no happiness in such a position. Haribol. All glories to Prabhupada.
We have similar people around, like in office or everywhere. Like the boy,
Yeah.
the same people. Like in office also, if we even try to talk, they say you are some kind of lower person. If you talk about God,
So you're less intelligent. You're less intelligent because you believe in fairy tales. You're not scientific.
And they're exactly the copy of that boy. They're very, very strong atheist, very strong.
Yeah.
And nothing works. Like I don't even try. I just give sometime prasadam, which works, and that works.
No, but it's a sickness. It's a sickness, and it just leads to misery. It doesn't lead to happiness. They claim false. Oh, I'm very happy. I'm independent. I'm not like you, dependent on God, some fairy tale. I believe in science. I believe in a Big Bang. I believe we come from monkeys. Yes, I'm a monkey. Well, yeah, you are. You're living like a monkey. So, this is crazy. So, we have to develop Krishna consciousness in ourselves, and then we can help these people. Hari Bol. Okay, high five.
High five, low five.
Actually, what they do, do you believe in God? No, I don't believe in God. High five! They high five you for not believing in God. You want to chant? Here's another one. Good.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Satma
Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadna
Bandhu Isavadana Mate
Bandhu Sabadana Ate
Jahara Prasade Eva Jai
Janara Prasade Bhai Eva Vasoriya Jai
Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoy Te
Krishna Prapti Hoya Hoyte
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitite Koriya Aikya Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitite Koriya Aikya Arana Kori Ho Mane Asha
Arana Koriya Mane Asha
Shri Guru Charane Rasi Aise Uttama Gati
Shri Guru Charane
प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा
ये प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा
चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिलो जे जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित
प्रेम भक्ति चाह होइते आवे जावे नाश जाते
भक्ति चाह होइते आवे जावे नाश जाते
वेद गाय जहारा चरित
वेद गाय जनर चरित
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनर बंधु
श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आदम जनर बंधु
लोकेनाथ लोकेर जीवाना
लोकेनाथ लोकेर जीवाना
आहा प्रभु करो दया देह मोर पाद छाया
आहा प्रभु कर दया देह मोरे पद छाया
एवे जस गुसु त्रिभुवना
त्रिभुवना
शिल प्रभात पतित पवना कृष्ण प्रसाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नित्यामिने
नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रसाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नित्यामिने
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादि शतारिणे
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादि शतारिणे
श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद जय श्री
कृष्ण चैतन्य
प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajika Chastata Satyarashi Shishimad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Adanta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Vaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivedanta ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samkunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Shri Mayapura Dham ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki Jai. Jalasi Devi ki Jai. Bhakti Devi ki Jai. Ganga Maya ki Jai. Jamuna Maya ki Jai. Samavela Bhakti Vrinda ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavan ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupada. Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitanamani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani. Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Bhaskati Satarni. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain the pure devotional service. I bow down to this lotus feet in great awe and reverence. By its grace, one can cross the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. By him, ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of the poor, and Lord and master of the devotees. O Master, be merciful unto us. Give us the shade of lotus feet. Your fame is spread throughout all the three worlds. We take shelter of your lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavani ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani. You know how you give the high five in Hare Krishna? No? Hari Bol Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Now you know. So if someone goes like that, you go, Hare Krishna.